going to call the meeting to order. And going to need confirmation of the agenda moved by Barb and seconded by Jim, and that would be ended. And I believe, Lindsay, when do we do the motion that Barb was talking about?
So yeah, Barb can just bring forward a further amendment to the agenda. Like now.
Okay.
Yeah.
At this time or after it's approved?
So we'll just do it at this time. We can just add another clause.
So go ahead, Barb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Chair. I would like to move to further amend the agenda to include correspondence received from Teen Town Hall last evening after 5 p.m.
Okay.
And receive it for information.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that?
I will second that, John.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of, or anyone opposed to that motion, the amendment? Hearing none, declare that passed by unanimous consent. And now it's the confirmation of the agenda as amended with the Teen Town Hall one as well. Any discussion on that? Okay. Anyone opposed to it? And I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. Next, we have any declaration of pecuniary interest. You can declare now or at any time through the meeting. Hearing none, we'll move on to delegations. We have delegation from David and Jane Hull. Are they here, Lindsay?
I have a caller on the line. David or Jane, is that you on the line?
Okay.
I'm assuming the caller is Mary from the paper, so I would say that they are not on the line right now.
Okay.
Mary, is that you on the line? Can you talk?
Yes, it's me.
Okay, so yeah, I would say, John,
Hello?
they are not here, so I guess we'll pass by this.
Okay. Yeah. I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the August 5th, 2020 meeting. It's moved by Brian, seconded by Jason. Any discussion on that? Okay, hearing none. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. Next, we have the 7.1.1 from Fire Chief. It's a smoke alarm cost recovery, moved by Jim, seconded by Barb. Derek, did you want to add anything to that?
It's pretty self-explanatory. Essentially, when we show up on an emergency scene, if they don't have any working smoke alarms, we got to leave them with some sort of early detection. So in the past, we've always had a verbal agreement that when they get a new smoke alarm, when they go and purchase one, they're to return ours. That never usually happens. So this is just a way for us to recoup the cost of the smoke alarm. That way we can keep providing that without costing taxpayer dollars for essentially free smoke alarms for residents.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from council?
Yeah, I have one. Martin here, through the chair.
Yep.
Derek, this is for recouping, obviously, the smoke alarm itself, but when they don't have one in there, aren't they supposed to be charged? Is there a time period before you actually charge them for not being compliant with having said smoke alarm?
We find it's easier and better to work with people. Sometimes we go there. Sometimes they're elderly people. They can't really fix their smoke alarm. So then we leave it, and or sometimes they have a defective one, right? Like your CO alarm or smoke alarm's acting up, starts going off, it's near the end of its lifetime. That's when we get the call from 911 for the defective alarm, so then we leave one with them, and they're supposed to go buy their own. They never do, and they keep ours. So the idea is that they have the option of going to replace it in 10 days or giving ours back, or we'll sell it to them. As long as they are battery powered, if they are hardwired themselves, they need to go and get one. So this is just a way that we'll receive basically our loaner smoke alarm back, and then we'll look into, like I said, I like to give them a chance. Then we'll look into prosecution after that. But it's for the smoke alarm itself. I think it's a $150 ticket, and for us to ticket them, drive all the way to Owen Sound, submit our ticket, drive all the way back. If they decide to fight it, we got to go to Owen Sound. We're kind of going to lose money that way. So like I said, I like working with people a little bit better than being the bad guy that shows up and writes the tickets. So maybe it could just be a lack of knowledge, or they weren't aware the smoke alarm was at the end of its life cycle. So we like to give this.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Brian, you look like you had a question.
I had a question. Derek, what sort of a budgetary impact does this have on in a yearly budget on average?
For me, I would say right now this year we've given out 6 smoke alarms already. So if you do 6 times $60 for a smoke alarm, and we're only in August. It depends. Usually in the fall time, we'll start getting some more with the wood stoves going off, activating the alarms. And if we get their alarms expired, then we can't not replace it, right? Because then if something happens and we know their alarm's outdated, then we're technically are liable. So I would say anywhere about, could be up to $400 a year.
$400 a year?
Yeah.
I guess what I'd rather see, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Fire Chief, Derek, is that somehow, and I really do admire your your statement there. You'd rather work with the folks. I guess what I'd rather see is the fire department or the township eat the expense and continue distributing the smoke and CO2 alarms at no charge. I just think it's good public relations, and I don't think it's a big impact either to the fire department or to the township financially. Your rationale is sound. I understand your report, but I would just as soon have the township eat the expense and supply these fire alarms or smoke alarms at no cost to the homeowners.
I would. This is Michael here. I would agree with Brian on that. I think it's just good relations with the public. I mean, for $400, it's not a lot. And I mean, we do get some of them back again. It's not that we don't get them all back. I know it's kind of you got to chase some people, but one life, I mean, is all it is. So, I mean, yeah, I would say $400 in the operation of the fire department is not going to kill anybody.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara here.
Go ahead, Barbara, then Martin.
That our deputy mayor is suggesting. However, I think if we could find that number starts to escalate when everyone finds out that they are not going to get charged for a free smoke alarm, and they're a little bit more than $50, the one that I just bought. So, I think leaving the expense at the discretion of the fire chief is more appropriate than to say, as a public relations move, we're going to give out free smoke alarms. I think you're going to have a lineup of people calling in to say, I need a new smoke alarm. So where do you make it fair? I wouldn't support a blanket move to provide smoke alarms, but I would support that it being at the discretion of the fire chief, understanding the circumstances that they've provided the smoke alarm in the first place.
Okay, thank you. Brian, did you like to say something about that?
I think, despite the quality of the fence that Councillor DeBreen is on, I think what Derek is saying here is that when they show up at an emergency call or at an inspection, that's when a free alarm would be left if there isn't one there. It's not that we're going to start handing them out to anybody that calls the fire hall. At least that's my understanding. Maybe the fire chief can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we're going to start allowing, people to show up at the door and say, I want my free smoke alarm. I don't think that's the intention here. The intention is if they show up at a call or if they show up at a false alarm or whatever like that, that's when they leave a free alarm if one is needed.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Yeah, there's good points on both sides of this debate. I would think, in a way, it could be ongoing individual. Whenever Derek goes in, the fire chief goes in and puts one on the table and says, "Here you go." They have 10 days, I think he said, to bring it back until they get a new one. So there's regulations already with it. I would hesitate. I think it would be up to his discretion, because you could also be there a couple of times where they are blatantly taking advantage of it. So there's good arguments on both sides. I would lean towards, as Councillor DeBreen said, putting it on the discretion of the fire chief for each individual call. So.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Thank you, Brian. I understand that aspect of it, and I mean, do we leave it as a public relations line in the budget so that the fire department has the discretion to move forward? Hopefully we'll get some of the smoke alarms back. So are you proposing, Brian, that you're making an amendment that we not charge, or are we, because the resolution is as it is at the moment?
The resolution would just have to be voted down, because the resolution would just have to be voted down, because if he amended it that we don't charge, then it's going contrary to what the actual motion is right now.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Brian?
What I would suggest is, and I'm not sure if there is a line item in Derek's budget for this particular expense, but I would suggest that Derek add a line item in his budget for this expense so that council and the fire department can monitor that expense. And if it gets to a point where it seems unreasonable or excessive, then we can revisit this. But at this point, it's a pretty small budget item. I think it's well worth our public relations in the community. It's well worth the safety of the community to know that if the fire department shows up, they will supply them with the appropriate equipment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Martin here, John. Yeah, Derek, in the background on your report, it says we are required to provide the resident with some sort of smoke CAO alarm. That's a requirement from the province, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so if we show up, we have to leave them with some sorts of early detection. Just like if we get immediate threat to life inspection, for us to be able to leave the occupant in the house, we have to leave some sort of early detection if they don't have it, which is usually the battery powered smoke alarm, with the understanding that they're supposed to return it when they purchase their own.
Thank you.
Thanks. Jason?
Yeah, no, I agree with Derek. I think we should go after the money. I guess I'm on the fence with Barb. it's, we can only do so much for people. Like I'm saying, you know, it's 75, but it might be $100. And I agree with her. Like if I understand what Brian's saying, people aren't going to be lining up for it, but we have to cover our costs. These people, if they're not going to pay it, follow the rules within 10 days. You know there's something going on there, and I just think we should recover the cost.
Okay, thank you. And that fence is getting a lot of people on it, so we're going to have to be careful. Okay. Anyone else? Any comments before I call a question? I have a feeling, Lindsay, this one's going to be a split vote, so I'll let you do that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So recorded vote was called for staff report Fire 2020-014 smoke alarm cost recovery. Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Nay.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
No.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
By a vote of 5-2, that's carried.
Thank you, everyone. That's what I like about this council is the votes are all over the place, so it's good discussions.
I'm sure everybody will be just as price conscious when we come to other reports in the agenda.
Let's see right away. We have moved by Jason and seconded by Martin that resolution at 7.1.2 on the agenda, and that's about the battery-powered extrication tools. Derek, did you want to add anything to that report?
Once again, we submitted a tender, or we opened a tender for battery-powered extrication tools, which is your jaws, your spreaders, your ram. We had several companies submit. We did a trial with a panel of 4 firefighters to figure out which ones they liked the best and operated the best. And that's where we came up with Code 4. And recommendation is that we purchase the Hurst hydraulic from Code 4.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments about this from council? Brian.
Mr. Fire Chief, what is the difference in price between the lowest bidder and the highest bidder?
So lowest bidder was $32,000. The highest bidder was, I believe, $48,000.
So about 16 grand.
Yep.
That buys a lot of smoke alarms. Thank you.
You know what? That's enough. They could even buy a wood chipper. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Oh, hearing none.
I actually have I do. Sorry,
Okay,
Mr.
go
Chair.
ahead.
Was trying to get my phone off. Through the chair to the chief. I read the report and I can see normally we go with the lowest bidder, but you've assigned a point system to this because can you explain the importance of that that would support going with the I'm just looking at the scoring sheet, Derek, and I'm trying to load it so that I can see it. My apologies. Anyway, perhaps the chief could explain the importance of why he's recommending the higher priced version. Obviously, there's a point difference. We don't always go with the lowest bidder, and if for the safety and well-being of our crew as well as the people they're rescuing? I'd like to better understand that.
Yeah, so we assigned a point system. We had a panel of 4 firefighters test out all the battery-powered extrication equipment. And what we found, we had TNTs. They were Platinum 10 Rescue. They came in at 32. Then we demoed Amkis, which was M&L, which was around 36,000. Then there was Genesis as well. That was around the same mark as M&L, and then Hearst. They came in with 2 submissions. But what we found with the Hearst is they were lighter. They operated quieter. Their actual tips on the spreader bit into the cars, and it wouldn't just tear the metal off it. And their battery life was greater than the other ones. Essentially, as well, to Code 4, all they do is sell hydraulics and hydraulic tools for AutoX. So they are well driven around that. If you look at their references, they own about 90% of the market of fire departments. And it came down to, we felt those tools would give us the better chance as well as perform the best. That way, when we were at a car accident, we wouldn't have any issues extricating the patient. And so we just didn't feel giving it to the lowest bidder was fair.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I can't get my camera on to put my hand up, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Nope.
So we're not going, I mean, the likelihood of us doing extrication underwater, you're not proposing that we're getting the one that goes underwater.
No, it looks like Derek's up here.
So the one that we are, like, I'm looking at the prices, and my screen isn't working great, and I don't see it on the screen here, so I can't really jump back and forth between the cost and the scoring. But if the chief is still there, we're going with the one that doesn't provide extrication underwater, correct? The lesser of the 2 Hearst options.
That's correct. And,
Thank you.
Dave, do you have something?
Yeah, just if Derek looks a bit still there, so he must be having a problem.
Yeah.
But Derek reviewed this stuff with me just to, see that it fits, and we did not. Yeah, we didn't even. They didn't even evaluate the underwater one because it was the most expensive, and they don't provide that service. I think the evaluation of the price versus the quality of the product shows through in many areas. He said the maintenance was better, the batteries were better, and there were some products that were kind of more home use rugged versus industrial rugged. So they were definitely impressed with this Code 4 product.
Thank you.
Hearst has the company at Hearst that manufactures them has a very long. They're some of the original extrication tools, and they're pretty innovative too. Any other questions or comments?
Through the chair, Martin here. I guess this question is for Derek. I saw that the battery warranty is for 5 years. There's a 15-year warranty for the actual tool. In your report, it says, Derek, that this unit's a lot lighter. So, for all intent and purposes, a lot more people on the squad can use it, which is good. And it also says the annual service fees are lower than the other companies. What do you think or suggest they would be every year?
Yeah, so some of the other companies, when we asked for the service price, they were about $1,000 a year, where the Hearst, they are $150 per tool a year.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, hearing none. Okay, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, no, I'm all for, saving as much money as we can, but it sounds like this tool from the chief and what Dave said is, it's the middle of the road price, and it's gonna provide us with a good service, and, I guess I'd respond to Mr. Milton's, money difference as, if I'm in an accident, I want the best there getting me out. The people that choose not to have a smoke detector, that's their choice. So I'll leave it at that.
Good point.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions or comments? I should just say questions. Hearing none. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Hearing none, we'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. Next,
we see our delegates are here. I wonder if maybe we could change the agenda to accept them at this point in the meeting.
Okay, does anyone on council have an issue with that?
Not here.
Okay, not hearing any. Dave and a second, let me get back to that part. Dave and Jane Hull, you there?
Yes, we are.
Okay, if you'd like to let us know what your delegation is about, and go ahead. Oh, I'll just move a motion here first. Moved by Martin and seconded by Barbara that we receive this delegation for information. So go ahead, please.
Okay.
There, okay.
It keeps deleting the microphone.
Yeah.
You're good, Dave.
Noise bylaw.
The noise bylaw referring to Amendment 6 in the noise bylaw regarding snow clearing.
Yes.
Okay. Our neighbour keeps waking us up at 4 o'clock.
AM.
So we want that Amendment 6 deleted so we can use a snowblower at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Well, we can look into it, but there's a lot of people like to remove that. It affects the whole township, and there's a lot of people that the plows are out and getting driveways done for people to go to work and things. So as well as clearing the downtown area. So that would be difficult, but we could look into it.
Not at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it only refers to agricultural tractors.
Residential area.
In residential areas.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's the one we want to delete. Agricultural tractors.
This is a personal use that he's doing this for. We understand that plows have to come out, to clear the streets and stuff for people to get to work. We understand that. But this gentleman next door to us doesn't just do other people's driveways or go and do snow plowing for anywhere else. He is doing this at the side of his own personal property in between our house and his. And it's very loud and aggravating, and it wakes me up every morning at 4 o'clock, 4:30.
Okay. Have you given the township your address and that yet, so that can look into it?
We have contacted Bev Fisher quite a few times about this.
Okay.
And, he just said there was no more action to be taken. Well, I'm sorry. I don't like being woke up at 4 a.m.
No, I can see that.
This is a residential street. It's a dead-end street. So, there's other people that don't like to say anything about it, but I don't like being woke up.
Yeah. What street is this?
Mill Street.
Okay.
The person involved cleans his driveway out, then leaves to do somebody else's, comes back at 8 o'clock and parks his tractor. He doesn't do anything for the rest of the day unless he gets a phone call.
Okay. All right.
And the amendment to this bylaw was only amended last year in 2019.
From what we can see.
Okay. Okay. Dave, you have a comment, please?
Oh, that's finished.
No. Dave Noner.
Yeah. No, you're
Dave, you're
muted,
muted.
Dave.
Sometimes that's best that I'm muted, but just to give some context to that, the issue of cleaning driveways, our plows are out likely between 3 and 4 in the morning, so that's when the snow removal people in town, many of them do have tractors. The commercial guys and the guys that are sole proprietors have tractors to do snow removal, and they've got a lot of customers, so they do start as early as 3 and 4 in the morning to do that around town, so that these other people that they're providing the service to can get to work, and some of those are leaving at 5 in the morning to get to Honda and places down south. So that's the issue. I mean, if we were to ban that kind of a practice, and we understand the other side of it, but that's part of morning snow removal in great northern part of southwestern Ontario.
I've lived in north of Orangeville since 1968, and I've worked in Brampton all my life, and I never had to get up and blow my driveway out at 4 o'clock in the morning. If I had to blow my driveway out before I got to work, then I'd soon be late, and I never got in trouble for it. We're talking about when the roads have been closed, and Dundalk was shut down, this individual still had to go out and blow driveways out. And we phoned the bylaw officer at that time, wanting to know why he was going out when everything was shut down, cleaning driveways out.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on council have any questions?
Barbara?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this may be for Dave Milner, or I'm not sure if our bylaw enforcement officer, Bev Fisher, is on the line. I wondered, so the issue is that it's a tractor as opposed to a snow blower or a residential snow removal item. And it sounds like this person is operating from his home to go and clear commercial driveways or commercially other people's driveways, whether that's parking lots or businesses or other residents, that they can then get to work. And like I understand, snow is exempt in cities. Snow removal is exempt. But I think the issue is the size of the tractor and the amount of idling that's being done. I'm not entirely sure of the situation.
Well, it's both. It's both.
Okay, don't yell.
It's the snow removal and the idling of the tractor.
Okay. Are there any other questions from council?
Jason here, John.
Okay, go ahead, Jason.
With all due respect to David and Jane, we live in the snowbelt area of Ontario. Everybody doesn't work from 8 till 5. People work from 3 in the morning. People work till 3 in the morning. She says she gets woke up every day. I'm going to play the devil's advocate. Well, how many snow days that are crazy do we get a year? 20? I mean, this guy's clearing the driveways out. As far as the roads closed that day, maybe he was going to clean the driveway out for some elderly person that had to get to the hospital. We don't know that. I'd just say, come on, we live in Grey County. A few days I guess I'd say suck it up. Thank you.
Oh, you know what? Before we moved into town, we lived out near Maxwell. I left my house every morning at 4:45 to go to work, and I never, ever had to get my husband to clean the driveway out first. Now you're telling me this guy can just clean his driveway out, scrape the grade, and doesn't care what kind of noise he makes, but he isn't still, why is he doing this before he goes out and cleans anybody else's? Why doesn't he take his tractor, clean out wherever he's going, then come home and clean his driveway?
Dave Milner, you got something?
Yeah, so, this equipment has to be warmed up before they use it in the winter time, so that's likely why it's running. I think that is likely relatively short term, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And we understand the concern. We have lots of other people that have this small type home business that do this in other parts of town. The difference in town too is when we blow snow, it goes on top of the lawn and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. So sometimes we create our own problems where we don't have that in rural areas, maybe quite the same as far as snow buildup. But we're trying to put snow off the street, we're trying to put snow off driveways, and it all ends up on people's lawns or our section of the road allowance. It's usually sidewalk or boulevard. So it is a bit different, but plain and simple, we cannot regulate the removal of snow or the time that it's being removed because it's just a necessary thing to keep the economy going.
Not when it's a private business in a residential area. It's not keeping any economy going.
Okay, so thank you very much for the information. With delegations, no decision is made at the time of the delegation. That leaves council time and staff to look into matters and decide if they're going to do something or not. But I thank you for your delegation and bringing this to light. So thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to item 7.2.1, which is moved by Michael and seconded by Brian. That it's about the Maple Grove Cemetery request for a bench. So Lindsay, I think that's one of yours.
Yes, thank you, Mary Woodbury. So we had a request come in from a plot owner to place a bench in the cemetery. Looking at our bylaw, we don't have anything that prohibits that, but we just wanted to bring it to council to see. Our public works manager looked into a couple other cemeteries in the area. Some do allow, some don't, and just depends. We think that if we are going to approve it, that we should enter into an agreement with them. And there is a couple other benches plotted around the cemetery and one other larger one that we're not sure if it was approved by the cemetery board back when. I'm not sure. We couldn't find any records. So that's why we're bringing this to council, just to get approval and feedback on future requests that we may receive.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from council?
Martin here, Chair. Since there's already some benches in the cemetery, and I would assume since these people want their own bench on their own personal plot, that they already probably look after their plot quite well. So, out of respect for whomever's buried there, I think it's a good thing to do. The fact that you're going into an agreement with them will stop a lot of people who want to do this, because it could open a floodgate. But if there is an approval and an agreement in process that there are stipulations, then I think it's, especially when it says the township's right to remove it, I think it's okay in my books. Again, they obviously treat their plot with respect and go there often if they want a bench put on it. So that's just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I have a question, John.
Sure.
Under what, and this is to speak to the issue of the township's right of removal, under what circumstances would we need the bench removed?
I'll maybe let Jim Ellis comment. I see he has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so it may interfere with a burial of having to get equipment in to dig or something. It's a possibility. Like Lindsay mentioned, there is one permanent one that's in there that's on a foundation. And it's, I'm not 100%, I did dig back a little bit and found out this was pre-amalgamation. But we do have, like Martin said, some benches dotted around the cemetery, which are our own benches, and they can be up and moved. We have to look at, this one here's alongside the roadside again, for snow clearing operations, if they're going to interfere or impact with that we have to maintain. So there's some site-specific possibilities that may arise that, you know, not everywhere is a perfect fit to maybe have a bench. Like Lindsay said, there's a lot of cemeteries that don't allow it at all. But we will be coming forward in the near future with some bylaw updates to cemetery bylaw with some other things that we're dealing with currently too. So, but we were just wanting to get a handle on council's perspective on this and to try and move in a direction that's accommodating for anyone.
Thank you.
Martin here, John.
Okay, just a second, Martin. I've got Brian and Dave, and then you, okay?
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Brian.
I was just, as a follow-up, I was going to ask, why do some of the other cemeteries prohibit this type of installation?
I think it comes down to a bit of a safety liability factor, that who's maintaining it. If somebody else is sitting on it and something happens, I think there's those inquiries. Also, if the bench is damaged, who's responsible to repair it? The lawnmower hits it or whatever. I think those are some of the justifications for not having it. There are sites that have them, but they're more memorial. They may take the place of the actual tombstone with engravings and everything. So, you know, and some of those are on a foundation. But I think that the consensus is that in these type of rural cemeteries of ours, that they're prohibited.
Thank you. Dave?
I just wanted to add to Brian's question and comment about removal. It may deteriorate that a family down the road may not be interested in maintaining it, and if it goes, you know, awry, that it's just not safe anymore, we would have the right to remove it as a condition of the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Martin?
Oh, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm just, my computer went off and I was looking at the picture that's in the report. It's only 36 inches long by 17 by 15 deep, so it's not a very big bench. And as I said, as long as we just don't get permission, but we actually have an agreement which states the obvious, then again, I think it's okay. Having that agreement will kind of put a stop to everybody wanting to put one in, and that would be a real exercise for the people who look after the cemeteries. But with this one being so small, and it's not on a concrete pad, I say, yeah, the feedback you want is if it's okay, and I think it's okay, being that side.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
Barbara?
Okay, Barbara?
Just one question about the agreement that we would be entering into with the plot holder. Would that include, we would have the say on location, so that there's the least interference with lawn maintenance? Obviously, they're going to have a maintenance agreement that, and liability, but will that be like a site, not an official site plan, like we don't need to see it, but is that part of the agreement that you'd be looking at, Jim or Lindsay, so that we get to have input onto the location of the bench?
Yeah, we would, Councillor Dobreen.
Anybody?
Yeah. So it's Lindsay, Councillor Dobreen. We would. I've already spoken with the person requesting, and they are proposing kind of at the foot of the grave. But as Jim Ellis said, there is a driveway there, so we would have to make sure it was in far enough so that it didn't intrude on any of that. So that would, be part of the agreement. I would assume we would make that in there.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Dave, you're muted.
Okay.
We were looking at this as more so not just this one, but what would the agreement need to have in it? And one of the things is that the size of the bench would have to fit on the property of the plot. It can't encroach onto the rest of the cemetery or another plot. Plus, the issue of the plot should be full or occupied both plots. It was a double plot, and the only allowance for a grave interment would be an urn for ashes or something like that, just so that we wouldn't have to interrupt the location any more than necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Brian?
I guess what I would caution council and the works department, this particular type of bench that I see in the picture, and if that's representative of what the family wants to place, that bench is 3 pieces. There's the top and the 2 legs. The legs are not attached to the top. The top simply sits on top of those legs. And it is very unstable. And as someone that has maintained the cemetery for a good number of years, I wouldn't want to see this anywhere in the cemetery that I'd maintain, because it can be very unstable and it's heavy. If a small child was fooling around on the thing, it could fall over and hurt them seriously. The other concern I have is that it doesn't matter where you put that bench, it will interfere with lawn maintenance. I'm strongly a proponent of one marker on each plot, and that's all. And if the township wants to put permanent benches scattered throughout throughout the cemetery like there are, then that's fine. But putting this type of thing on individual plots will cause headaches down the road, guaranteed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none. The motion that we provide feedback and approve the received request for placement. So I think, Lindsay, this is going to be a split vote probably, so I'm going to turn it to you.
Sure, thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So a recorded vote was called for staff report CL 2020-026, which is the Maple Grove Cemetery request for a placement of a bench. Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
No.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
No.
Councillor Shearson?
No.
Mayor Woodbury?
No.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
By a vote of 4 to 3, that has failed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Next.
question, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes?
Does the failure of this request preclude them or prevent them from coming back with another option? Given the concerns expressed by council?
So through the mayor, it's Lindsay. So I think what we'll do is bring forward an amendment to the cemetery bylaw, which we were planning to do anyway. But the person that requested knew that it was going to council for a yes or a no, so I'll just let them know what happened.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Moved by Jim, seconded by Jason. It's item 7.2.2, you bang the table engagement. Lindsay, did you want to add something to that?
Sure. So we have had the bang the table engagements use for about a year now. We've seen a little bit of use with it through the public with the downtown Dundalk holiday streetlights survey and the waste survey that we did earlier this year. Those were our two ones that had the most feedback. We're just finding that we're just not getting the use out of it that we maybe thought we would. But we do want to keep that Shape Southgate logo and that branding and use it through our social media and our website and kind of push it that way. A big problem that we've seen with the Bang the Table is that people actually have to sign up and create an account to be able to answer surveys, which we find is a bit of a hindrance for people. They don't really want to take the steps to do that before answering the survey. And with, the use of SurveyMonkey or similar tools, they don't need to. It's just an open survey, so it's quick and easy and it's done. So we think that using our either SurveyMonkey or our website has a form builder feature that also can create surveys. So we just think it's a better use just to have use the things that we have, or SurveyMonkey is really low cost compared to the annual Bang the Table fee. So that's just what staff were thinking. We're still gonna do surveys and that sort of thing for future projects, but just brand them with the Shape Southgate and do it through our website.
Okay, thank you. So basically a learning experience that we can do on our own is the way I'd sum it up. Any questions or comments from council?
Jason John.
Thanks. Oh,
okay, and then Brian first.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Lindsay, for the report. I wholeheartedly agree with you, and that buys a lot of smoke alarms, doesn't it?
And a wood chipper. Long memories are good. Jason?
Is there any financial? I don't see it here. Like, we don't have a contract with them or nothing. I couldn't remember.
No. We are in the annual contract right now, but basically we would just have to renew, which we wouldn't do.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else?
Through the chair, Lindsay, Martin here. SurveyMonkey, it says minimal yearly fees. They offer pretty good surveys, don't they? So that would be a good use of money there, minimally.
Yes, there's two.
How many times have you used the SurveyMonkey?
We used it. Our previous economic development officer had used it for a couple things. We, as in the clerk's department, we used it for the cannabis retail. We used it for that. And we used it for the election, I believe. I'm just trying to jog my memory, but we have used it. You don't have to get the business account. The business account is what I included in the financials of this report. It's 400 and change, I believe. And that's having a business account with them. Now you can just create you don't have to have the business account. You can do a very basic account, which is less money too, so.
Okay. One more question, if I may, through the chair. It says on the report, as you mentioned, Lindsay, the new website has a form builder feature. That feature, is it a lot more accessible to what you were saying about Bang Table, where you don't have to sign in?
Yeah, so basically
do a survey?
Yeah, so our form builder feature, we haven't used surveys on it before, but we can. So our form builder, we're actually transitioning a lot of our forms over to the form builder, and it's completely up to accessibility standards, and they can be submitted through the website, and they go right to whichever staff member is responsible. It just makes filling out forms and that sort of thing a lot easier. But then it also has this component that you can do surveys through. So.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none. Anyone opposed to this motion? I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. And thank you for that, Lindsay. And I do believe too that doing some of these things internally like that, instead of having the system that we have to follow, is a really good idea. So thank you. Next, move on to some of Jim's reports. 7.3.1 about the motorized snow vehicle bylaw. And it's moved by Barbara and seconded by Brian. Jim, did you want to add anything to that?
Like it mentions in the report, we've had legal review on it. If you noticed in the schedules, there's actually only one unopened road section that is trail permitted. That's Highway 10, 22 between 10 and 75. But we've restricted some of those areas. We've had complaints and concerns about. Some of those unopened road allowances have a lot of wetland and challenges to get through that, so they've been restricted. But again, some minor changes to what the council's seen in draft before, but it's ready to go.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a little bit of clarification, if I might, from Jim, please. I'm looking at the bylaw itself, and section number 8, which speaks to proof of membership, and then on to section 10 and 11, it deals with membership or affiliation requirement. Do I understand from that unless I have a membership with an ATV club or a snowmobile club, that I cannot operate my snowmobile or ATV on our roads in Southgate? Is that how I interpret that?
Go ahead, Jim.
Yes, that is the interpretation. This is to try and help the clubs with the maintenance, with their membership, to the signage up where roads are part of the trail systems. There is some conditions that if you have farm equipment with the slow-moving vehicle sign, that you can run the roads. But yes, you can drive the roads, but if you're on part of the trail systems and you want to run the trail systems, you should be a member of the trails.
I guess if I might, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I guess an analogy would be that unless I own a membership in, say, CAA, for instance, I can't run my car on Grey Road 9. It seems a little bit heavy-handed. I can appreciate that the snowmobile and the ATV clubs, they need those memberships to maintain their trails. But the snowmobile trails, for a large part, are off-road, across private property and so on. So I get that. You can't run those trails unless you have a membership. But to run on one of our roads, a publicly maintained road, that snowmobile or ATV, you probably paid for a license to be on the road. Those fees go to maintaining the roads in a roundabout way, of course. I don't like the notion of being forced to buy a membership in a local club just to run a publicly maintained roadway. I don't think that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and one other question, if I might.
Sure.
Section 10, where is that now? There it is there. I'm only allowed to have my ATV or snowmobile on the road between the hours of 6 a.m. and 11 p.m. What was the rationale for limiting those hours?
Go ahead, Jim.
So obviously over time we've had noise complaints about both machines doing those kind of operations at the wee hours of the morning. And those are kind of some of the club's rules too, that we're trying to work with the clubs for enforcement of the trail systems. Again, police are on some of these trail systems at times, but it's trying to work with the clubs and also with residents about noise complaints.
Okay, thank you. You didn't look like you were done, Brian. Go ahead.
Well, I get the part where you differentiate between a maintained off-road trail or even in an urban center. I get that. You don't want snowmobiles ripping up and down Victoria Street at 2 in the morning. I get that. But to limit somebody to run their snowmobile or their ATV on a publicly maintained road, particularly out in the rural areas, after 11 o'clock at night, you might as well try to tell people they can't run their car or their truck or their tractor on the road after 11 o'clock at night. Who's going to enforce this? I mean, it's fine to put all these rules in place, but who's going to enforce all this? It just seems like we put all these rules in place and we don't enforce them. So I just don't think this is right. I'll end it here.
Okay, thanks. Just to answer your enforcement, if anyone asks me, I usually give out your card. So to you, I'm not sure what I would do. Maybe I'll give you one of your own cards.
Yeah, so, yeah. Well, I have Dave's number, so I always call him. So that's
okay. Who did I hear? Was it Michael?
Michael, yeah. Those just on Brian's point. Like, I mean, I used to drive my snowmobile back and forth to work. I used to have to be at work at 6 a.m. and then if I was on the afternoon shift driving to Orangeville, I wouldn't get off till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning and then driving home. So now you're telling me that I can't be driving on those when I paid for my sticker and I paid for my license. You're telling me now I can't drive on those trails? Like, I think they're going to get some backlash because I know there's a lot of times that I got home at 2 and 3 in the morning when you go out at supper time, you go for a rip out to Holst. You go for a rip with the guys. Like, I mean, you're not getting home till after midnight. So I'm not quite sure why we want to be, putting this out there to people that are out enjoying the outdoors, saying you got to be home by 11 o'clock, because I don't think we have the right to do that. Or we should.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Barbara?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Through the chair. So I hear what Brian and Michael are saying. I too have a concern with Section 8 where, where people maybe, instead of starting my car up, I might use my ATV that is licensed to go from my neighbor's house, from my house to my neighbor's house. Or, they may decide we might want to go down, I don't know, doesn't really matter. But on the maintained roads, is there a way that this agreement with the ATV clubs could exclude the maintained roads, the maintained portion of the roads. If we're entering into a trail agreement for the unopened road allowances, I can understand that especially from, like Brian mentioned, the private property for snowmobiles. That's what you pay $300 a snowmobile ticket for. Those fees are, and that, I don't think that's with the snowmobile club. I don't know, but I just know that it's per machine. It's pretty hefty. So, and we're including ATVs in this. So I see ATVs going up and down our road, 5 times a week. And they're just going, I don't know where they're going, but they're going around the block maybe. I don't know. But those are on maintained roads. So they're going to now have to get a permit from an ATV club to drive our roads. So I can understand Brian's concern, and I understand that. I also understand the maintenance of the unopened road allowances. How do we distinguish from those, or is there a distinguished? And maybe I just missed it in the bylaw, Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
I think we're trying to set some guidance and some common sense rules here. Like, we're not going to be able to enforce that people can't drive around a maintained road with any of these devices at this point in time. Again, we're trying to work with the trail clubs in having them and their insurance and their liability for the marked trail systems to be on them. And they include some of our road sections that are open and maintained. It's trying to work hand in hand with them and having the liability in place for something that happens, or hopefully doesn't happen, but if it does, there's some more protection there for both municipality and any operator owners or whatever. So, but I understand, and I don't think that we're going to be driving out there or having police or trail wardens out there looking on not identified trail roads in Southgate for enforcement. I think it's about trying to keep the clubs and their memberships, they're maintaining these signs and different aspects of different parts of trails at times, and being able to give them the tools and the enforcement they need. But I really don't think we're saying that you can't drive down an open road with, and I know it may say that, the encouragement, the guidelines there, the concept in reality is, it's not that way. But again, we're trying to work with people to make it happen, that if the clubs want this way.
Follow up?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So we're talking about the increase in our bylaw enforcement later in the agenda, and once we create a bylaw that says you can or cannot do something, people will start calling. So if Brian or Michael is coming home from work at midnight and their neighbor takes offense to it, our bylaw enforcement officer is going to get the call. Or do they call the trails management? Once you say you can't do it, then our phones will start getting the calls, I think. Not and maybe we'll just give them John's number instead of Brian's. I don't know. Rather than Bev. Yeah, I understand that the trails management, the clubs actually do a great job. They're out there, they're maintaining the trails, and it comes at an expense. I just hope that when we're talking about, because we already allow ATVs on our roads, without them being a member of a club. I just hope that it doesn't open the door to a flood of complaints. I know I'm not going to be, calling about the 3 or 4 ATVs that rip up our road, Brian, on the weekends, but yeah, I think some people might. I'm supportive of working with the ATV clubs for them to maintain the trails. But where we maintain our roads, I think there'll need to be discretion. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Jason here, John.
Go ahead, Jason.
I'm a little concerned with what Jim said when he said, yes, it does say that we can't be on it, but we're not going to enforce it. So what's that saying about any of our other bylaws? We're making a law, but we're not going to enforce it. And I guess I didn't read it good enough when I was reading through it here. That section saying that you can't use that unopened road. I have a side-by-side and a four-wheeler that is insured and licensed. And we have a pasture farm down there. So there's a chance by this bylaw that somebody can charge me for going down that road when I'm going to check cattle or something. I overread it. I didn't skip it. It's crazy to me. But anyway, I'm not going after Jim. Just his comment saying that, yes, it says that, but we're not going to. It's a little troubling to me. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Great. Hearing none. Lindsay, I think this is going to be another...
I see Mr. Frew has his hand up there.
Oh, does he? Okay, I can't see him. Go ahead, Jim.
In the staff comments, it says the next steps for the clubs to bring forth their agreements and then insurance documentation. Some have, some haven't. Don't you think it would be prudent to have them all in line before you pass the bylaw?
I don't know. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments, or does anyone have an answer for that? If it seems to just be a point, as a matter of fact. So, okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Oh. Yeah.
Just before we vote, if we don't support the passing of this bylaw as it is written today, given the conversations and concerns that we've expressed about Section 8 and membership in clubs and not being able to drive on our municipal roads, the bylaw could be deferred and come back with some tweaking, perhaps, that could satisfy the ATV clubs and our maintained roads. I'm just wondering if we accept this staff report for information, we can still pass the report and consider passing the bylaw, but defer the bylaw pending a revisit given our concerns. Is that possibly the way we should address this?
Yes. Yeah.
I can't see the resolution. Yeah, and that we're just consider passing the ATV bylaw.
Yep. So that would be the way to do this, Lindsay, would be to, we could go on with the motion we're on now and defer the bylaw till the next one? Or would it be better to defer both?
No, so Councillor DeBreen's right. So if we just bring forward an amendment to this, just to amend the second clause of the staff report, rather than council consider passing, just swap that council defer the ATV and motorized snow vehicle bylaw 2020-089 pending further information or something to that effect, and then that just defers the bylaw rather than it lose and not be able to be brought forward again.
Right. Okay.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair, to add that clause to defer it to
Point of order.
Okay.
We can defer the bylaw when we get to the bylaw. We don't need to change this resolution.
Okay. Well,
or am I mistaken?
No, we can do it that way too. It doesn't.
From the clerk was.
Yeah, through the mayor.
Okay, whatever suits the clerk.
We can do it that way too. Either way,
So,
it works.
All right. Well, Brian's moved this one already, so if we get a second, or we can carry forth.
John here. I've been, maybe I lost my chance to ask a question or comment, but I don't have either snowmobile or ATV or side-by-side, so I've been thinking about this. From Article 8 or whatever, proof of membership, all the way down to times of hours, should they even be in our bylaw? Aren't those restrictions, or aren't they in the club's bylaws to begin with? So they already know this. Why should it be in ours? Just a question. Because
well, that's another one that could be addressed. Jason, did I hear that you seconded Brian's motion?
Yeah, yes, will do. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, could it be reread?
Yeah, it will be.
Thank you.
We do have it moved by Brian and seconded by Jason. And Lindsay, if you'd like to read that again.
Sure. So the amendment would be that council amend the second clause to defer the passing of the ATV and motorized snow vehicle bylaw number 2020-089 pending further information.
Okay. Are there any questions and or concerns over that? Okay. Hearing none, is anyone opposed to that motion? Okay, so that motion has been passed by unanimous consent. And the answer to Martin's question is we can look into that part of the bylaw as well. So, okay, so that effectively takes 7.3.2 off the table now.
So we just need to, Mayor Woodbury, just do the main motion as amended.
Oh, okay. All right, so we passed the amendment. So now we have the main motion as amended. And are there any more questions or comments on that? Hearing none, is anyone opposed to this main motion as amended? So that also is passed by unanimous consent. 7.3.3 is the tender for the truck. That is moved by Barbara, seconded by Jim. Jim Ellis, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, we didn't have to evaluate any used vehicles. They were not submitted in this tender. We evaluated, like the report says, and have a preference to go for the crew cab version as opposed to just a single cab unit.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions. Not having read I don't recall reading the actual tender document. Did we tender for a crew cab or a regular cab? Did we tender for a diesel or gas? And how much are we over budget on this particular item being proposed?
So, I do not think that the tender specifically spoke to crew cab. But there were submissions from companies on both designs. I believe it did say diesel in here. And we had a budget of $65,000 with $1,000 for a trade-in for Unit 294, which at this point in time we're going to hold on to deal with COVID issues. But as indicated in the financial report, we would find some savings in some other areas. Yes, we spec the diesel.
Thank you. Yeah, you looked like a follow-up question was coming. Go ahead.
Well, I just, so we are, the recommendation is over budget. I guess I'll say it, I'm disappointed. The nature of the discussion during budget time was that we did not need a new truck. We didn't want to budget the amount that is we can see here for a new truck. We thought a good used truck would be sufficient, and I get it that nobody bid with a new truck, but that does not preclude us from going out and finding some prices. I'm going to stop there because I'm upset. I don't think this is right. We don't need a new truck. We don't need a diesel. We're going to be no more than 20 kilometers from the shop most times anyway. The diesel is going to cost us more money than it's worth. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Martin here, just to comment on all the prices. I'm looking at the report and it says the capital budget included $65,000 for the truck with a sale of $1,000. So if you're looking at that, every cost price that came in from all the four, McMaster, Wilson, Chev, they're all over the budget. And if the diesel is making that so, then I guess I have to agree with Brian. Why have a diesel? You know, I realize there's 800 clicks of roads in this township, but how far do they go from? Is this just? Yeah, everything's over budget. So is that just a sign of the times because this was tendered so long ago, or the price is astounding?
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Originally, when we presented this budget with discussions on looking into what costs would be, we were asking for $90,000 at budget time, and we ended up going the route of 65 for used. So I don't think we're too far out of line with new. You got to remember too, this truck at times will pull trailers or whatever else. So that's where the diesel comes in to play a little bit more than maybe the gas job. But whatever council wants to recommend, we'll work with and carry on.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none. Lindsay, I think this is going to be a day of you doing votes.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So we have a recorded vote called for, got it here, staff report PW 2020-042, which is the second release of the 1-ton 4x4 truck tender award. Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne? Deputy Mayor Milne, are you there? Deputy Mayor Milne? Okay, Deputy Mayor Milne is absent. Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
No.
Councillor Shearson?
No.
Councillor Frew? Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor
Sorry, Madam
Shipston?
Clerk, I stepped out for a moment. My vote is no.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shipston?
No.
By a vote of 4 to 3, that's lost.
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
for clarity, what next?
Did we get the last vote?
Yeah, it failed, so.
It failed.
Did it? Okay, because I didn't hear it here. Sorry. Yeah, I was just waiting for that. All right, thank you. 7.3.4. Okay, Dave, go ahead. Oh, mute.
I'm trying to be quiet. To try and answer Councillor DeBreen's question, I mean, there's still a motion on the books that we tender for a vehicle. These prices were all over budget. So in my mind, we'll go back out and we'll tender, with a gas vehicle as part of the tender process. And if somebody wants to give us a diesel at a better price or provide a gas price and it comes under the budget numbers, we can bring that back to council for consideration.
Okay, thank you. Okay. 7.3.4, moved by Michael, seconded by Martin, and it's the rate of speed reductions. Do you want to add anything to that, Jim?
These we did a few studies in a couple areas we had concerns about, and we've come back with the data and looked at it and support 40-kilometer zones in some of these smaller semi-urban developments that we have in the township that have currently maybe no speed restrictions at all on them, so they default to 80 kilometers. So we tightened some of those areas in. We also included in this, we're just installing the school flashing light zone on 49, and that'll be when the lights are flashing, the 80 will go down to a 60. And we've increased the length of the 50-kilometer speed zone on the Wilder Lake Road section from Varney right out to Side Road 39.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? I'm not hearing any.
Sorry.
Yep.
It was telling me I didn't have a connection. My apologies, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I just wanted to thank staff, Jim, for looking into the concerns of residents. And I'm really happy to see that we're going to get those flashing lights in that school zone on 49. That is quite a busy road, and just wanted to thank you for looking into the matter and responding. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Anyone opposed to the motion? I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. And next we move on to the bylaw. It is moved by Jason and seconded by Michael. Be it resolved bylaw number 2020-091 being a bylaw for setting the rate of speed of motor vehicles from a statutory speed limit to be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and entered into the bylaw book. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. The bylaw, Lindsay, I'll turn that back to you.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. A recorded vote was called for bylaw 2020-091, the rate of speed bylaw. Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury,
Yes.
Councillor Rice,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne,
Yes.
Councillor Frew,
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen,
Yes.
Councillor Shearson.
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Thank you. Next, we have move 7.3.6. It's the intersection stop signs, moved by Martin and seconded by Jim. Did you want to add anything to that, Jim?
Yeah, again, we did some traffic data collection here at Uncle Tom and, excuse me, Sparberry. And we're recommending the always stop at the mailboxes on the east side of Uncle Tom Crescent there, where it meets Sparberry. Currently, the stop is on Sparberry. So that is one of the recommendations. The other one was concerns about Artemisia and Toronto streets. We already have the 40-kilometer speed zone there. We've had a number of vehicles that were doing around 80 in that section. We did have one that was 110. But long story short, we have issues going with truck traffic up into the new development there. Both the developer and the contractors have been informed many times. We get calls sometimes a couple times a week about truck traffic, and they're not supposed to be using that road. However, we're also anticipating with the always stop at Toronto and Artemisia that might deter some of the truck traffic too, and also assist with the speeding that we've encountered.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this?
Martin here, through the chair. Jim, this thought just came to me. With you putting down these traffic counters, how long do you keep them out on the road to get a picture, a good picture? 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I'm just curious.
Generally, about a week is what we try to allow for, and that's our general concept. Sometimes, it'll maybe be a 3-day count, but in the usual way we do counts are a week, or sometimes more if there's been a problem with collecting data or something like that, but usually a week.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Anything else?
Jason here, John.
Go ahead.
Do we have a no truck sign on Artemisia Street? I can't picture it. I just wondered.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, actually we do at both ends of it, but it's not enforceable as we do not have a bylaw to support it.
No problem, I just wondered.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I'm not hearing anything else. So I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to this resolution? Hearing none, I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. And then moved by Brian, seconded by Michael, is the bylaw, and that's bylaw number 2020-092. That's a bylaw for erecting the stop signs. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, hearing none. Lindsay?
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. A recorded vote was called for bylaw 2020-092, the stop sign bylaw. Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. That's with your reports. Next, we're going to move on to Dave, but what do you say we take a 10-minute break? and then we can come back at 1:45, all set to go. All right, so we'll call a recess now then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see how we're doing. I've got 1:45. And it looks like we've got everybody back, I think.
Can we just do a quick roll call, John, just to make sure?
Sure.
So, yep. Mayor Woodbury, you're here. Deputy Mayor Mellon?
Yep, I'm here.
Councillor Dobrain?
Present.
Councillor Frew? Councillor Rice?
Yep.
Councillor Shearson?
Present.
And Councillor Shipston?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, welcome back, everybody. I got coffee, so the world is a happy place. And let's get going again. 7.4.1, moved by Barbara, seconded by Brian. And this is a draft fireworks bylaw. Dave, did you want to add anything to your report or discuss it at all?
The only thing, the reason we've done this is fireworks have become more of an issue for the fire department, and so we've done some research on it and worked with the fire chief, and this was a bylaw that we come up with that we think fits as best possible, but we want to put it out there as a draft for to receive comments from council and get it right. But kind of one of the things that happened more recently is somebody set off fireworks that likely should have been more display fireworks and not backyard fireworks, and there was a chunk end up in another a next door property.
So, thank you. Any comments or questions from council at this time?
Martin here, John.
Go ahead.
I think this is a good bylaw. Unfortunately, one of those bylaws that have to deal with a lack of common sense, because I've driven through Dundalk during the day and I've heard firecrackers go off. So this has to be dealt with, and this is the best way to do it. It'll stop the domino effect, liability calls out for the fire department, and more importantly, the education, the size of the firecracker. Depending on some people, if they get them from the States, this is going to be looking into the future because they're bigger firecrackers that come from the States. So all in all, it's a good bylaw to have. So, and it's very specific, as I said, education-wise, with what fireworks are allowed and times. So,
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Barbara here.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Thank you, and thank you, Dave. It's unfortunate, as I mentioned in my email, that we have to react to people not using safety and common sense and respect for their neighbors in some of these instances. The bylaw will just give us the ability to try to shut it down, at least give us some teeth to go by, because without it, they can be discharged at any time. Hopefully it will help quell some of the concerns expressed through the social media as well. And I, like John, get the phone calls and questions about what can we do about it. So thank you for looking into this and coming up with the first step in the solution.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Just a question here, John, if I may, today.
Okay. Just before you go, who was the second person there, so I can mark you down for being next?
It was me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, Jim. Did Jim
go
speak
ahead first? And
Oh, okay.
Then Jim.
I guess this is for Dave. It says financial impact. It says there will be no application fee for a fireworks permit. Would this be a one-time only thing like a campfire permit, which could be all year, or is it just specific? And is this the way that we can keep control of the people that have a lot of goings on with fireworks?
Yeah, so I mean, you use the comparison to a fire, like a fire burn permit, but I don't think unless I'm going to give that latitude to the fire chief, because he's going to be the one to manage this bylaw. If somebody says, well, we want to have Victoria Day on the Saturday night of Victoria Day and the Saturday night of say Canada Day weekend or whatever, or Canada Day, they could put that in one application. That would be his discretion. But the idea is that we know about it, that there's education, that we've had an opportunity to have a chat rather than these surprises that go up in the air at midnight, wake people up. With that said, everybody likes looking at fireworks until the damage is done. So this is just a way to manage it. We're not going to really respond to too much if we've got a permit and got the education, but we are going to respond. And we want to make it we think by charging, people won't come and tell us, where if it's free, let's have the discussion and prevent the problems before they happen.
Yeah. Thank you. Jim Fruit.
Yeah, John, this is a rather good bylaw. It takes the dangerous ones out of the equation. I have seen individuals taking these bomb-type firecrackers, lighting them, and sticking a cannon top to see how high it would go. The passive ones are okay. Nobody can get too much damage done from these passive ones. So the bylaw, I think, is a good idea. As far as having a large firework display, would you require a pyrotechnic license for that?
Well, there is a requirement that the people are trained for those pyrotechnical fireworks displays, and that there is some level of knowledge. So I don't think we have, unless we've got this trained resident in the community. But by and large, anybody that has those kind of I better not say display because that's another term, but a pyrotechnical event hires a company to come in and do it.
If these individuals are having a large display, it might be just as well to have a firefighter on the site to make sure that they're doing it safely.
Yes, and that would be a decision of the fire chief.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments?
Jason here, John.
Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, I agree with the bylaw. It's good. I didn't realize it was such a big problem in Dundalk. The only thing I was wondering, we set these bylaws, but people don't know what the bylaws are. Are we going to throw it in the paper in a half-page ad or something like that? And my other question was, if we do have somebody doing it, how are we going to enforce that? Is it going to be hearsay by the neighbors? Said, well, this guy was doing that. That's going to turn into a bit of a problem, maybe. But I see what you're doing, trying to get out in front of it. I just wondered if we could put it out there more that people know about it.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, and we really haven't put a lot of consideration into that, but we'll take that as an important aspect of promoting it. Maybe in our next newsletter. We've likely gone by the fireworks season now, but anyway, that's we'll do those communications for sure.
Yeah.
Barbara speaking.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Through the chair, I think Dave, you're right. The fireworks season may have come and passed, but it is Labor Day weekend this weekend. And some of the issues are not necessarily those that are having the displays or the family type fireworks. It's going to help address the issues of those setting off firecrackers, throwing them, across balconies. Difficulty with just putting it out in the newsletter. I think it's a great idea that we communicate it in the newsletter, but I think part of the problem with the newsletter is that the people who are tenants in homes and apartments don't necessarily get the newsletter. I'm not sure. Maybe they do, because if they go out with the tax bills, that's already gone out. Can you clarify, Dave? Does the newsletter go to all residents, all mailboxes?
It all depends on how we put it out, whether we put it out with a tax bill or a mail drop. And we've done both. So what we'd likely do with this one would be when we do the next mail drop type communications.
Okay, and I would encourage putting it out on social media as well. That would be helpful.
Yeah, I think with this type of thing, education is going to be the big part.
Getting the word out. Thank you.
Yeah, doing something. Okay, and any other questions or comments?
Just my comment. I mean, I live in Dundalk here. I mean, we have fireworks going off at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning to 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then after supper, it doesn't really matter. Just people just send them off all day long here in town. It definitely needs to be addressed because it drives a lot of people crazy. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's probably just a small number of people annoying a whole lot of people is what's going on. But you're right, it doesn't matter what time of day or what day. So, okay. Thanks, Michael. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Hearing none, I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. Thanks, Dave. 7.4.2, moved by Brian, seconded by Jim, and it's CAO 2020-054 CAO update. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so I just have to... Okay, so this is just reporting on the Phase C startup. We delayed it a couple weeks. Just it was actually a member from outside the municipal office made the suggestion about should we wait for to see how the school does. So we're going to just give it another 2 weeks, start September the 21st with the next phase of program rollout at the municipal office. Still, there'll be no internal meetings with outside members of the public. It'll still be at the front counter, but more people will be coming back in. We've started Phase C at the library, and that appears to be going well. It's quite interesting that the librarian reports that even though we've opened the doors, the curbside collection is still a very popular method of doing book pickup. So there's still hesitancy, which is good. People are being safe about how we proceed with rolling out, getting more public contact. So that was an interesting piece of feedback that they have observed there. The AMO conference, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there. It was informative. We had a good discussion. I think that the main part of our success was at that conference was we had a really good meeting with the parliamentary assistant for the Ministry of Infrastructure, and Barry Field led that discussion for us, representing SWIFT and us on that whole 5010 service, and how fiber demand is real, and that he got a picture of what we were trying to portray to him, that it's really important to get ahead of this demand right now that there is with virtual meetings and so on caused by COVID. Next item is the Grey County Public Transit. Just an update that September 14th, we're going to start rolling vans up and down the highway between Owen Sound and Orangeville, and the pickup will be at the Dundalk Arena. And we do have a bylaw just for you to ratify that agreement of pickup location with the County of Grey coming up next, I believe. Buy Local is starting next week to promote Southgate, and there'll be two $150 gift baskets being drawn for, and we've put forward names of businesses that are being contacted, or I'm sure they have been contacted by now.
buy these two $10 gift certificates and would be part of that program. And we were sent names in from right across the whole township, from Highway 6 to Highway 10. So other than that, that's about it, unless there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none. Is anyone opposed to the motion? Declare that by unanimous consent, and move on to the bylaw for the Gray bus stop agreement at 7.4.3, moved by Michael and seconded by Brian. Did you want to add anything to this, Dave? Or?
No, that's good to go.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay. Lindsay, I'll turn it over. Oh, Brian, go ahead.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Dave, I'm wondering, I look at the site plan, I guess you'd call it, or Schedule A of the bus stop. I see the actual bus stop sign is on the, I guess we'll call it the south end of the arena parking lot. If the parking lot is very busy with a lot of vehicles, is that going to leave enough room for the bus to maneuver and for patrons of the bus to park?
Yeah, so I believe they're putting signs up. They're going to try to be dedicated some to that parking, but we had to identify a location where the bus was actually going to go, and that may change during the winter months, to be more around a shelter of the arena when it's open or whatever. But we believe that there's double access during the summer months, that they can go through the Egg Society property. But there's lots of turnaround because we have the roadway down the back of the arena there that's kept open as well. So we think it's a safer spot over that way than being around the arena doors. So.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just Michael here.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, is the Egg Society aware of the usage now of that gate? Because the driveway between the two, the laneway that goes down through their property there, is really not a roadway by any means. If we have a lot of traffic down through there, it's going to probably turn to mud on a wet month. I'm just kind of wondering have they been aware that we're going to be using both driveways for this project?
I mean, I don't think the Egg Society is being made aware of how, 90% of the times that people go down that roadway. We're not promoting that that's an access, but it might be a safer exit of the vehicle. How they operate, I mean, if we want, we can tell them to stay on our property, but that is a pretty stable roadway, and that entrance has got lots of material in it to not turn to mud. I mean, we grade it for them, for the Egg Society, so they're pretty reciprocal in allowing us use. We have people going to the Ball Diamond now on their property, so we're pretty flexible about working back and forth with one another because of our maintenance of the road now.
I've follow up. I've had questions from different people, that the people that use the facility out there, like people walking their dogs and stuff like that, they don't clean up after themselves. That, you know what I mean? That they just throw their stuff all over. They don't clean up after their dogs, so it's all over the place out there. When you're walking, you got to be careful. So I just don't know that, we need to make sure that we have the proper bins out there for garbage and recycling, because any transit stop you come to, people have a coffee and then they want to throw it out before they get on the bus, right? So, that's all.
Yeah. Good point. Any other?
John Martin here.
Go ahead.
Through the chair. Dave, just a question with the signage. I noticed the other day coming through town, there's a lot of the big vans that transport the horse-drawn community here and there, and they are parking on the side of the road, on the grass, on both sides of that tree. Like, is there going to be something for them as keeping away from the Grey County parking signs? Or are we going to make spots for them too? Because I did notice two are on the grass, on the outside.
Yeah, I do see people park, like those bus drivers parking kind of in that wait time for the return trip, but I haven't seen them over that way. So we may have, Kevin may have to deal with that when he sees that as some initial education. They tend to park underneath the pine trees going north and south where it's in the shade over there, where this is on the along Main Street more. But I think that's just an education piece, but we'll make note of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Not hearing much more. Oh, Barbara,
I had my hand up.
Yes, you did.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with regard to those taking advantage and using the county service or the transportation service, designated parking for those people so that when it comes time to, this car has been parked here for 3 days, that we know, are they using the transportation system, or is someone just using the parking lot to park extra vehicles? So will there be designated spaces for those people who are using the transportation system?
I understand there will be some. There's not going to be likely, 20 of them or anything like that, but there will be some. And we'll deal with this, kind of that case-by-case basis of longer-term parking, which we've done in the past as well.
Okay, because, if people have an issue and they have, visitors and they want, like we have the park on the road permit for 72 hours, we could actually be making, and in our public parking lot as well, out on Croton Street, where tenants are using it to park their vehicles, to have overnight parking permits that, the landlord can purchase. Just something we can think about. But yeah, you're inviting people on to park and go, so we may end up looking at that. So thanks, Dave.
Okay, thank you. Any others?
Yeah, Jason, John.
Yep, go ahead, Jason.
Well, I don't think with the ridership we have on this, it's going to be a big issue for the parking in there anyway, is it? Just a comment.
I don't think so. I mean, if we have 10 vehicles parking, I think we better start jumping in the air because we've got success.
Yeah, but and we'll have to buy bigger vans or more.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I'm thinking 3 or 4 maybe initially.
Even that would be a good start.
For sure.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. This is a bylaw, so I'll turn it over to you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So a recorded vote was called for bylaw 2020-100, the bus stop agreement with Grey County. Councillor DeBreen?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay, great. Thank you. And hopefully this doesn't have to go through the county legal department, because that could take a while too. Next is 7.4.4. It's the hiring recommendation, moved by Jim, seconded by Barb. Did you want to add anything to that, Dave?
No, I think the report is self-explanatory, and I'll just deal with questions.
Okay, good. Are there any? Well, I could answer those questions. Oh, there's one. Yeah. Go ahead.
Dave, I'm wondering, I'm not seeing a lot of financial impact here. Can you give us an idea? Well, I see this. Yeah, I mean, that. What is this new position going to cost us for annualized?
It's about 48 would be the top end, I believe. I stand corrected, but let me just go to my report here.
Is that currently built into the budget?
So right now, in the 2020 budget, there is a clerk, deputy clerk, and administrative assistant, legislative coordinator job.
Right.
So that's a pay band 12, and then the other two positions. So right now, basically, we're replacing replacing the deputy clerk position with a pay band 12 position.
Okay.
So that's about 3 bands down. I believe it's from 9 to 12 or 10. I think it's 9 to 12. So we're saving about $15,000 a year.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just the
Jason here.
More smoke detectors.
Go ahead, Jason.
I'm just, I don't want to play the devil's advocate. The times we're in here, can we get by without this person right now? I hear it from the public. Why is there so many people working there? Yeah, it's one of the complaints you hear over and over again. And, you know, I know we need lots of staff to keep everything. It just seems the way the times are right now. And can we get by without it, Dave, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, and I put that lens on it as well. But right now, we're not delivering on the services we provided even before COVID. There's no doubt we're putting more demands on the clerk to be a working clerk, where and not that the job isn't about management as well, but Lindsay's taking on more of those deputy clerk type duties, and planning has just been really busy, and because of COVID there was some regress in activity, but since June, July, it's been really ramped up back to normal and even worse, and we kind of, to fill the void of that third position not being there, we kind of pulled back on some of the planning support. In actual fact, we need more planning support instead of less. We get a lot of inquiries, and those inquiries, I think they're going to continue because we're in that growth phase, and you know, the rate that Flatto's building houses, the interest in expanding in the eco park. Like, I could sell more land in the eco park, and Clint is getting those same calls. So we need the point of contact to get someone answering the phones instead of Clint to do that initial screening. And so we're loading up the clerk's department with more of those responsibilities to support Clint. Otherwise, we may even yet, if the workload doesn't decrease, is put some of these official plan reviews and that sort of thing out, some of the work out to private consultants. You know, we're waiting on we're waiting on the comprehensive review so we can sell some more land in the eco park and get that deal done, and analyze our industrial. And we had hoped to have that industrial review done by now, and it's not, and that's just because of workload. And the other one is the urban expansion, so we can get the Highway 10 property up and running, so we can develop it and start selling land there. So this is about supporting the growth that's here, and I'm kind of slow to hire people sometimes, but from my analysis, the workload is there. You know, we likely were functioning before, you know, with 3 people in the clerk's department and, you know, some I don't want to talk much about the past, but, I was always questioning whether there was enough workload there, but we sure can't do it with two and support planning department if we need to. So we need to add that person. And again, we focused on these responsibilities, all three people in the department being working staff or a working manager, and not kind of pulling strings and figuring out what the next best widget is.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, Jason. Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you mentioned, Dave, that earlier this year we went through a reorganization, and it was to downsize various departments. You're now saying that we need to add back a body, and that you reference perhaps looking at the organization and redistributing. I mean, we're so close to budget discussions now. Why are we approving a new position or bringing back an old position, more or less, in headcount, weeks before our budget discussion?
Well, if it was an add to, we definitely wait for budget discussions, but this has become an issue of since June. The workload increase that the planning department has got to the point of we can't deliver on our timelines that we need to with once an application submitted. The clerk's department was putting out notice of public meetings and notice of decisions and all that sort of stuff. Some of that's fallen back onto the planner, and we've got planning applications that need to get to council soon, and without the support, we just wouldn't be able to do it. This is about delivering on services, really. And I mean, I don't think we ever really talked about reorganizing, so much the clerk's department. We were, COVID kind of delayed those discussions because there was a lot of unknowns. But now that we've got back into business, and we feel that the business is not going to slow down with the activity we're seeing, that this position's needed to support planning and customers.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up?
Go ahead.
So, given that, we're ramping back up as a result of seeing a decline in files because of COVID, is it more than what we would have anticipated had we not had a shutdown? And perhaps hiring a full-time permanent position at this stage is a little premature, given we don't know how things might settle out once we catch up.
Yeah, and I think whether it was COVID or not COVID, I think we still would have had this conversation, but likely just earlier in the year. The activity that we're seeing is back to normal and a bit heavier. And I don't think it's because of COVID. I think it's because we've had discussions with Flato. This has been a delay in commercial industrial interest after COVID, after the residential, growth. And this residential growth, I mean, the homes that are already marketed and sold that aren't built is a little bit staggering. And so developers are like other developers, commercial industrial interest is coming because of that. And the rural industrial is not slowing down either. It's continuing. We've had discussions with some of their planners, and they're as busy as ever. I mean, they've got 2 full-time planners in their areas working, and there's another one working at it as well with them, kind of in training, I believe. So anyway, it's Southgate is a hotbed right now of this, and we need to keep up. I'm putting some other things out there, and I guess I'm putting those out there because I'm reflecting on, I could be saying the economic development officer needs to get replaced right now, but I want to have those discussions later on when we get into budgeting. I mean, that's an open position. We really didn't cancel it. We just made a change there to see how it goes. But the economic development thing is really, really busy right now. I'm getting calls every week, and it's not about just industrial eco park. It's about storefront and vacant properties. How do I get a hold of this person? So we're working, I've got a waiting list for the eco park. So I don't see it slowing down unless there's an economic collapse of some kind that we aren't seeing. And if that's the case, then we'll all have to go through some of that pain. But Southgate is a bit different in that we're almost too close to the city, and we're seeing we're close enough to the city, yet we're far enough away from the city. So real estate values are not changing, and economic activity is not changing. It's increasing.
And I think just for council's information too, I was kind of blown away at how busy some of the planning and building department are. There's been over 300 building permits issued so far this year. So that kind of blew me away. Now some are for decks and things like that, but that's a lot of stuff. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Dave's comment that he's got a waiting list in the eco park and a waiting list for people that want to seek storefront properties in the urban areas. Now, I don't want to challenge that necessarily, but if I'm just a regular Joe and I'm driving around down the main street of Dundalk or the Eco Parkway, I'm thinking, really? Where is the activity? I have no doubt that there's lots of inquiries, but I'm really hoping that we're not going to hire staff just to churn paper, that we want to see some action. I hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to correct something in that I didn't say there's a waiting list in commercial. We're seeing a lot of commercial interest, and we're trying to make connections with people because we don't get into the middle of negotiations with a storefront owner and a prospective business, but the interest is there. The commercial, industrial, and the eco park stuff is we're taking names, and if people renege on their options to purchase land, and I've had conversations with Flato when we get that done to turn some of this business over to that development as well. So if you want to come down and see the list, we'll go over it with you, but it's difficult to put everybody on a piece of land right now that we have. I wish we had the Highway 10 property because we'd be selling land out there now.
I guess if I might follow up, my point was that you're saying there's a waiting list for property, but yet if I drive in Eco Parkway, I'm going, why? There's nothing happening. We haven't even cut the weeds this year. So where's the action?
So I'll respond to that by saying once we sell the land, then we've got the approvals process they got to go through. So like Petawawa, they're in that process. The ones on Main Street, we're waiting for on Ida Street, we're waiting for surveys to close the deals. Golden Greenleaf, there's an option to purchase on that related to government with federal approvals. I'm in contact with their lawyer to get an answer. Are they going to execute those options to purchase? So I've been working with the survey company to find out what we have and what we have available, and it's gobbled up. We just have to finish deals. All right, just because land is vacant doesn't mean that there isn't activity on it. We have a lot of paperwork before we can put sticks and mortar. And Canadian Fence is a prime example of that. They went through a recent change, and they own that land.
Lindsay, you have something?
Perhaps we've got
Go ahead, Brian. Finish.
too much red tape.
Yep.
No, through the chair.
Yeah,
I just wanted to add a comment just about the new position here in Dave's report. From my perspective, it was an issue before COVID because we lost that person. And yes, it has gotten worse since COVID, but I don't believe that once COVID ends and whenever that might be, that it will get better because it was already a problem ahead of time. The current administrative and legislative position, the intent is for that person to support the planner and support myself, and that's just not what's happening with the front counter. Like, the front counter is actually a really big job. It doesn't maybe seem like it, but by the time you're up there, the phones never stop, and you're helping out across departments, so it is a pretty hefty position. So that's where we're just seeing that loss of support to myself and the planner. So we're just trying to get that customer service level back up.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Jason, John?
Go ahead, Jason.
I just, like I said, I agree with Barb. When we're so close to budget, why can't we wait? And I guess this is what, you hear from people. I understand, Dave, you're busy. Lindsay, I appreciate what you just said. I understand people are busy. There's got to be the odd efficiency there. You talk about there's answering phones and answering stuff. Well, people in private business are doing that too. And that's just what you hear from people. Why can't government be more? Why do we always have to have more hiring to do the same work? I understand it's increasing, but I agree with Barb. I think we should wait at least till budget time. Just a comment.
Thank you. So I know from some of the stuff that I've been involved with the last while. Yesterday we had a meeting. It wasn't overly long with a bunch of the senior staff, and during that time, I know in planning, Clint had 8 calls that he had to return and do something like over the planning stuff. So I see your points on that. I just see where the support's needed as well. So this will be interesting. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Lindsay, let's have a recorded vote on this one then too, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So a recorded vote was called for staff report CAO 2020-055, which is the staff hiring recommendation. Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
No.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
No.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
By a vote of 5-2, that's carried.
Good, thank you. Again, I have to say that I think we've had one vote today that was 7-0, and the discussions and the things brought up, I think, and the way the votes go, I think is that shows the system. Dave, we'll move on to Clint's reports. 7.5.1, and that's moved by Martin, seconded by Brian, and it is the staff report 2020-035. Clint, did you want to add anything to this?
Yes, actually. First, I'd like to say thank you, Council, for that previous vote. That it means a big deal to me in terms of trying to get our service out to the residents and to Lindsay as well. It really is an extremely busy time right now. That being said, this is the first development report that I have for you. It's the Glenelg red line revision for Flato. And this red line revision is essentially increasing the unit count by an additional 20 units. And what they're doing is they're actually changing the unit mix from single detached to more townhouse units. This is in response to some market changes and the sale of those units, etc. So supporting this zoning, which is simply recognizing those changes, would show support for that red line revision. If Lindsay's got it up there, sort of. It's got there we go. So the big changes are the stormwater pond has been made smaller. They've added a few singles along the left-hand side of the stormwater pond where they no longer need that size. And then in internal roads, they've added some townhouse units, which used to be single detached units. It's important those internal roads to note that the reason why the townhouse units are on the internal roads is because there's typically less traffic on the internal roads, and therefore there's less issues with design and conflict with other traffic as it goes around. So that's all I'll say about that. I'm recommending in favor of it. I think it's a good idea. It increases the density, helps pay for all those services, etc. It is important to note as well that servicing of a townhouse is not the same as servicing a single-family residential unit. We're getting confirmation from Triton on this, but I believe it's around 0.8 residential units versus one residential unit equivalent. So the change in 20 units to townhouse units doesn't affect the overall service allocation for a development such as this.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments? All right.
Thank you, John. Clint, maybe this is a question to Jim, but you comment that it doesn't change the infrastructure, so to speak, underneath the subdivision itself. Does this impact our reserve capacity? I think we have lots of water, but it doesn't reserve our wastewater treatment capacity.
That's what I was alluding to, is when you talk about reserve capacity, you talk about residential units, and one residential unit equivalent. So a townhouse is only 0.8 of a residential unit, which is the allocation. So the increase in townhomes counteracts that reserve capacity number.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
Barbara.
Go ahead, Barbara.
And my apologies, I've been trying to get back into the meeting. At least I have the audio. Through the chair, Clinton, you're saying that the townhouse units are 0.8 of a capacity. So increasing the numbers won't change our reserve capacity, and and that's great news. And it's great news that we're going to have a higher density, maybe some smaller homes, to create a more diverse community. What happens when a secondary suite is installed into any home? How does that affect reserve capacity? Because obviously you're going to increase the number of people in the home, the number of water into the house and waste out. Do we have to factor that in at all?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. My suspicion is that it's not factored in, but I could be mistaken. I don't know if... I do know that with townhomes, it's very difficult to get a second unit in them because there's the frontage isn't wide enough to get more than one parking space, maybe two at the most, and you need at least three for a secondary suite.
Point. Thank you very much, Clinton.
Okay. Anything further? Okay, I'll call the question then on this. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Hearing none, declare that by unanimous consent. 7.5.2 is the bylaw for that, moved by Michael and seconded by Jason. Any comments on the bylaw? Hearing none, I'll turn that over to you, Lindsay, for the vote on the bylaw.
Sure, thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So recorded vote was called for bylaw 2020-093, which is the Glenelg Red Line revision. Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Thank you. 7.5.3 is moved by Jim and seconded by Barbara, and it's a site plan, PL 2020-036. Clint, did you want to add anything to that?
Just in recent discussions with the fire department and with the applicant, one of the requirements is to have a water reservoir either on the adjacent lands or on the subject property. They are going to put a reservoir on the subject property. It's just a matter of determining the size, and the fire department will be assisting them with that. But there will be a probably in the neighborhood of 40 or 50,000 gallon reservoir available for the use for the fighting fires on that property, as well as neighboring properties as well.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Any questions or comments on this report? Brian.
Clint, what is the nature of the water reservoir? Is it a buried tank, or is it a pond, or what are the parameters around that reservoir?
It's my understanding it's a buried tank that's accessible all year round. There'll be requirements in the agreement there for removal of snow around the access point all year round, and allowing for inspections by the fire department as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Anyone opposed to this motion? I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. 7.5.4, moved by Martin, seconded by Brian, and it's bylaw number 2020-094, and it's for this site plan. Any questions or comments on this? Okay, seeing none. Lindsay, would you do the vote? The bylaw, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote was called for bylaw 2020-094, which is site plan 920, the Meeting House. Councillor Dobreen?
My apologies. I've just joined the meeting on my iPad. For some reason, it won't go on. And now I have two audios. I'm trying to turn that off, but I vote yes.
Thank you.
On my iPad, for some reason, it won't go on. And now I have two audios.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Great. Thank you. 7.5.5, and that is moved by Martin and seconded by Jim. and that's planning report 2020-037, and that's to do with site plan agreement. Clint, do you want to add anything to that?
Just that council should be familiar with this one, and the Committee of Adjustment members as well. This one went through a zoning amendment, I believe, last meeting in August, and it was also at the Committee of Adjustment in August as well. The site plan is for a shop, which the whole reason for all of the other things was to allow for this shop to proceed. So we're at that stage now where he can get a site plan approval, hopefully, and begin building before the cold weather comes.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? Brian?
I just wanted to thank Clint for his work on this file. I know it's been a bit of a haul. There's been a lot of work done and a little bit of frustration on all parties' parts from time to time. But needless to say, we're happy to be where we are, and I thank Clint for his work.
Agreed. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Is anyone opposed to this motion?
You know what?
But is that you, Barbara?
Yes, it is. I guess Lindsay had muted me, not knowing who it was. I'm back in the meeting. Which item are we on? And I'm having great internet difficulties following along.
Okay, we're on 7.5.5 site plan. And do you have any questions or comments on that? Because we're just ready to do a vote.
None, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone opposed to this motion? I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. And now we have 7.5.6, moved by Jim, seconded by Jason, and that's the bylaw to go with that, bylaw number 2020-095. Are there any comments on that? Okay, and Lindsay, it's a bylaw, so you.
Thanks, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote was called for bylaw 2020-095, site plan 11-20, Levi Fry. Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to go past noon, since it's 1:45 now, and I don't think we'll get finished the rest of this by noon, so.
I would move that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Barbara, and second?
I'd second it, Bill.
Okay, Martin can second that. Any discussion?
Can I amend that to say that pizza will be delivered?
Yes, to the office.
Oh, I thought it was to my house. Thanks, Brian.
I move the planning department deliver pizza all parties in this meeting.
Well, they are in charge of planning.
They're short-staffed right now. We have to wait till we hire someone first, then we can go forward.
Of course, I forgot. Yes.
Yes.
Right, there'll be a delivery charge on that.
Oh, I'll pay anything, Clint.
Yes.
Just don't deliver it between 6 and 11 at night because we're not allowed to be out on the road.
And make sure you've got a smoke detector in the house.
That's right. And don't put the pizza through the wood chipper. I think we got all lines covered there. Okay. So I don't think is there anyone opposed to the motion to go past noon? Then that's carried. Next, moved by Barbara, seconded by Martin at 7.5.8, bylaw number 7.5.8, 7, yeah. It's the report. It's moved by Martin and seconded by Michael, and that's Levi Bowman. Clint, did you have anything on that one?
I'm going to let the report speak for itself on that one.
Wow, I like that. Okay, any questions from anyone? Okay, then I guess the report speaks very well. I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to that report? Hearing none, I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. Next is bylaw 2020-096, and that's moved by Barbara and seconded by Martin. That's a bylaw to go with the report. Are there any questions or comments on that? Okay, Lindsay?
Sure, thank you. So a recorded vote was called for bylaw 2020-096, zoning bylaw amendment C7-20, Levi Bauman, Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you very much. 7.5.9, that's PL 2020-039, Nelson Martin, moved by Jason, seconded by Jim. Clint, did you want to add anything to that one?
I think the report does a good job. I will say that this is an existing business and they're looking to expand. So obviously there's some success happening there and they're wishing to continue that. So
great. Any questions or comments? Okay. Anyone opposed to this motion? I'll declare that passed by consent. And 7.5.10 is the bylaw number 2020-097 for this last report, moved by Brian and seconded by Jim. Any questions or comments on the bylaw? Okay, hearing none, I'll turn that over to you, Lindsay.
Sure, thank you, Mayor Woodbury. A recorded vote was called for bylaw 2020-097. Zoning bylaw amendment C6-20, Nelson Martin. Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yes.
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Thank you. Next, we move on to bylaws and motions. 8.1, bylaw number 2020-073, and that's the public library agreement with Welland County. I have that moved by Jason and seconded by Brian. Does anyone want to speak to that? Or are there any questions?
So, I'm not sure if Liam's on the line or not, but...
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But it went to the August 5th council meeting. We just didn't have the bylaw on the agenda, so this is just following up with the approval of the bylaw for the agreement to be executed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Okay, I'm not hearing any, so Lindsay?
Okay, so a recorded vote.
Yes, my apologies.
So a recorded vote has been called for bylaw.
No.
For bylaw 2020-073, which is the Wellington North Public Library Services Agreement. Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes. Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Thank you. 8.2, it's bylaw 2020-090. It's moved by Barbara and seconded by Michael. I don't know if you wanted to talk to that, Liam, or if it's self-explanatory, or however you want to do this.
It's self-explanatory, and if there's any discussion, it would have to be in closed session.
Okay. So is there a need for discussion? I believe we have that on the table for closed session anyways.
Yes,
Woodbury?
that's correct.
Yes.
Since it is on our closed session to discuss it, would it not make sense to defer the bylaw until we come out of closed session?
Okay.
We can do that,
Is that
yeah.
deferred or tabled? Yeah.
Table it, whatever the terminology, Lindsay, I would so move.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. We'll defer it until after closed session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that?
Makes sense to me. I'll second it.
Wow, lots. I heard Jason in there, and so we'll take Jason this time.
Yep.
So we'll table that for now. Any discussion on motion to defer? There isn't discussion, is there? Anyone opposed to deferring it? So that, okay, so we'll get back to this later in the meeting.
Thank you.
Notices of motion. Did we receive any?
None.
None? Okay. And nothing last minute then? Anyone? Okay, so we'll move on. I keep trying to move up the agenda on the screen that doesn't move.
Mr. Chair?
I'm not the only one.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
When does the item that we added to the agenda fall?
It would go into normal correspondence, I would believe. Isn't that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
so it'll be coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I just didn't know where it would land. Thanks.
Yep, no, that's not a problem at all. Always good to ask. 10.1, regular consent agenda, moved by Martin and seconded by Michael. Does anyone want to discuss any of that? Okay, I'll call the question. Is anyone opposed to that resolution? Hearing none, that's passed with unanimous consent. 10.2 is moved by Jason, seconded by Michael, and that's a correspondence consent agenda, and that's the area that has been amended to include the letter from Team Town Hall. Is there any discussion on any of the items in 10.2?
Martin here, John.
Go ahead.
10.215, the actual letter that announced that we didn't get that funding. I'm just trying to pull it up out here. There is, Dave, do you have anything extra besides that letter which kind of really pinpointed why it got canceled?
Mr.
Or
Chair?
not accepted? Through the chair?
Yeah. Go ahead, Barbara. What?
Sorry, point of order. Did we have did we take a vote on whether or not we were going to pull any items and pass that and then move on, or are we in the discussion stage? Because I was going to pull that item.
Okay, we are in the discussion phase.
Okay, I guess I missed the option to pull any items. That's fine.
Okay, and what we have been doing as well is just notifying Lindsay if we want some pulled, so that we can do that at the time.
I did.
There's still time. Okay.
She did notify me, Mayor Woodbury. I was just going to wait for Martin to finish.
Okay, good. Thank you. So go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, I'm just, again, trying to pull it up here. Yeah, was there any other correspondence through the chair, Dave, about pinpointing reasons why it didn't get supported? And maybe that's something that Team Town Hall can look at, or whoever makes up another funding schedule. Was there anything particular, if you know what I mean?
Well, while Dave's getting himself off of mute, I can say that I didn't see anything else, but they're notorious for not giving you very much information, and even when you get back to them, not giving you very much information. So, Dave, I'll get you to answer that more.
So this is all we received, and when I see by me email only, that's all they've sent us. It's kind of led us to believe that there's a letter coming, but we've never received anything since. And I would have thought if there was a letter, we would have had it by now. So I shared this with Team Town Hall. There's no doubt, the application hasn't been passed on according to this to the federal government, and it was an ask that we had, and it didn't get nominated to go forward. They haven't given us any other information. The only dialogue I have had was with Team Town Hall. They have had some asks, and I said because of where we're at, that we didn't get this funding application, I think it was best for them to have a conversation with council, and I think everybody needs to either recommit to the investment that's going to be required, or we need to move on, because I think everybody's talked about we either need to get going with this or make a decision and move on to what is next in the history of the town hall.
Yeah. Okay. One more question, if I may, John. Dave. This is a point before a question. There was one point you just made. You did talk to Team at Town Hall, but this has been going on for years, and council never got, or I didn't get the letter either, and I learned about it on the street when I was paying my bill at the Dundalk Herald. So that's whatever. It says in the letter, though, other financial tools. I was just wondering, what are IO loans?
Infrastructure Ontario.
Infrastructure Ontario? Okay.
Yeah, but that's a loan. You got to pay it back.
Yeah.
So, whether we get it at the bank or get it from IO, it's still money that's got to find a payment plan.
Okay. And, well, I guess I've done my two questions. I won't ask another one. I'll save it for the other letter.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? First on this one, since it's up.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I too heard about it on the street, and since the letter was received on August 7th, and I learned about it on August 12th, Martin's heard about it at the post office, and we're just receiving the letter on this agenda. I realize that we only have one council meeting in August, but I'm just wondering, it wasn't accompanied by a staff report about outlining next steps. When will council have further discussion about the old town hall? Consideration of the email that we received at the 11th hour yesterday. How are we going to revisit this, Dave? And, are we just going to have a 5-minute discussion during the budget discussion?
Well,
I think this warrants a further, a robust discussion with Team Town Hall, with council, with the public. We can go back to the task force of 2014 and look at their recommendations.
Just want to let you know. And then there's been some dialogue between us and some of the members of Teen Town Hall. And I basically said, this is a discussion that, because they were wanting me to approve a sign being put up on the property. And I said, no. I said, you need to come to council and have those discussions and decide where we're going. And are you prepared to fundraise $2 or $3 million? I said, just to challenge them and see, because I think those are the kind of discussions we need to have. So it appears that they're working on it, and when they're ready to come, I'm not going to push them, and I don't think I'm in a position that I'm going to put a report one way or the other until we get into those discussions. And I think the time and the place obviously is at the council table, and Team Town Hall need to tell us what they want to do.
And just to go hand in hand with that, the email that was added today to the agenda, the end line on it is they look forward to presenting a delegation at a future meeting, if it would be helpful. So that kind of puts it in the ball in their court as well as ours. So again, keep working together to come up with whatever solution we end up with.
Mr. Chair, with follow-up.
Okay.
And with regard to that email from Team Town Hall and their request or desire to have further discussions, a committee perhaps, going to the Recreation Committee, coming to Council, I think we should get back to them and encourage them to schedule that at their earliest convenience so that we can have all the information when we come to budget deliberations.
Okay.
We can do that if that's,
yeah, staff can take care of that. Any other questions or comments?
Just one came to mind, John. This is through the chair to Dave. The name of that organization we've partnered with now that looks after grants.
Yes.
The name of the company eludes me right now, but you know whom I'm talking about.
Yeah, Grant Match.
Grant, that's it. So simple. Could we approach them? Because they said this could be, when we were talking to the lady maybe in the middle of summer, she said there's a lot of ability to stack different grants, so there is opportunity. That's my point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think before we get into what they need to do or if they need to, we need to get back together and see where we're going with this and how we're going to do it, and then we can investigate. Brian?
Some of the discussion in the letter we got from the Teen Town Hall was in regards to what level of municipal government they want to deal with, and I'm thinking, like, they're talking about staying with the rec committee, and to be quite honest, I don't think that's fair to the rec committee. I would rather see, this project is of the magnitude that we need all of council involved in the discussion and the decision. So I would rather see them come to council for deliberations and direction rather than going to the rec committee.
Yeah, I agree. Any other questions or comments?
Dave? Maybe I'll just make a comment like that. Like, definitely I wouldn't. I think there's no sense in having some discussions about how it's going to get done or that sort of thing at a rec level. We need to, at a council level, decide whether we're prepared to be involved in investment of that magnitude in that facility and what magnitude of investment they're willing to fundraise for. And if we can't get that across and meet, there's no sense in going forward. So that's the discussion that has to happen. And then if we can go forward, then let's see if there's some grant match or whatever can come to the table and help us. But there's got to be a huge commitment here.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on this one, Brian?
Well, would it be fair to have some communication, and I'm sure Dave will do this, but would it be fair to have communication with Team Hall to ask them to come to council, either to make a delegation or a presentation as to where do they want to go from here?
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. I think some discussions need to take place and let staff and Team Town Hall kind of get together a little bit and come to us in a future council meeting for a fulsome discussion on this. And anything else on this issue?
Jason here, John.
Go ahead, Jason.
To Dave's point there, I think, I agree with Brian and Dave as well. We've got to get together, and we've got to do it sooner than later. We're saying and putting out there what they want to do. Well, it's what the township wants to do as well. We might as well get it dealt with, because this is where we were when we voted that night. And I think that was, we give a chance, and I don't know, in my opinion, we've given it a chance, so they should have had a plan in order, and we should have had a plan in order, and as soon as we can deal with this, we should.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so other items in that category of 10.2. Any further discussion on anything else in there?
Yes.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Mr. Chair, 10.2.9, the Restart Phase 1 Municipal Funding Support Agreement, it indicates the treasurer is to sign and return the form by September 11th.
Yeah.
And because we just receive it in consent, we don't know if it's actually gotten to the treasurer. I'm assuming that he knows about this, so I just wanted to mention it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dave?
It was signed minutes after we received it, not days.
Awesome, thank you. Well done.
We've already had discussions, and it might have been 2 or 3 or 4 hours, but we've had discussions about, what tracking do we need to do? What do we need to look at to try and get the other 195,000? We think that's a pretty big challenge, but that's something we're looking at.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other items under 10.2? All right. Hearing none.
If I can, it's Lindsay. So I know Barb had mentioned to me about pulling the town hall item. I don't see anything like another resolution or motion being put forward for it. So, Barb, are you okay with it just being received as information with the rest of the items?
Yes, since it wasn't pulled to begin with, and we went on with the discussion. So, thank you. We'll look forward to more discussion with King Town Hall.
Okay, thank you. Anything else with the 10.2 items? Okay, hearing none. Anyone opposed to that motion? And hearing none with that, I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. Next, we have 10.3, resolutions from other municipals on the consent agenda, moved by Jem, seconded by Brian. Any discussion on any of those? Not hearing anything? Okay. Is anyone opposed to that motion? Not hearing anyone opposed, I'll declare that passed by unanimous consent. We have nothing in the 10.4 county report. We haven't met the end of August. Brian and I were both at our houses or something. We did the AMO conference. Some parts of the conference were, in fact, I think, better than doing it in person. The fact that they left the sessions, the concurrent sessions especially, open so that you weren't limited to seeing one and missing another. You could actually catch up on them in the days afterwards. And we had good delegations, I think, from both the township and the county, both focusing on the internet. My take from it was they really know there's issues and they really would like to solve some of them. So maybe in a go forward thing, if we can keep pushing a bit, we'll hear some good news. County still isn't meeting. Council isn't meeting in person, and they're working on a plan to move forward road. And I think, just like us, a lot of things are sitting waiting to see what happens after the first 2 weeks of school, to see whether we're going to move ahead with getting people back in offices and doing more, or whether it's going to be sold for a while or even go back to more separation. So we're going to have to see with that. Other than that, Brian, I don't know if there was much going on in the county. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think you covered that well. The only question that arose in my mind when you were talking there about high-speed internet, Dave, do we have any idea when we're going to hear back on the SWIFT projects, whether what ones have been approved or not approved?
My lips are sealed.
But we have no idea when the announcement may come.
Correct. Yeah, I'm thinking any day now, but take from what I'm saying what you will.
Yep. Good question and good response for what you're allowed. Any other questions or comments on the county stuff? Okay. Members' privilege, I didn't get anything, but is there anything anyone wanted to add?
Yeah, Martin here, John.
Go ahead.
I think there was something again in the correspondence about the blood donor clinic coming in September 19th. And I just wanted to say publicly a big thank you to Dave and Bill Walker, because as soon as they heard, or as Dave heard that it wasn't going to happen, he went to bat for the clinic. And here we are, totally different clinic, but it will be September 19th from 9 till 1. They've extended the hours because of less beds. And it was good to see the Youth Action Committee meeting with the picture in the paper, to see all those young kids wearing masks and trying to get back to normal. So I hope the act is very good for the end of the year going into 2021. So that's about it.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else have anything?
Yeah, I've got something, John.
Sure.
Holstein Garage. The fellow that owns that has been taking stuff away probably every weekend. The more he takes away, the more it ends up on that lot. He's never going to get it cleared. We're going to have to do something about that. The people in Holstein are getting rather annoyed.
I think in process would be the right comment on that,
and we're annoyed as well. The parking out on the boulevard and so on of stuff. The bylaw enforcement's working on it. It's just a matter of likely this may, I don't know, we'll see, but some of the hold up is the courts opening up in October before we can really wield a bylaw push on getting that straightened up.
Thank you. So yeah, that's another one of our ongoing. Anything else under good news and celebration before we move on? Okay. So next I have a motion here moved by Jason, seconded by Martin, that we go into closed session. Any comment? Hearing none. Anyone opposed to this motion? So I'll declare that passed, and we'll take a brief recess for us to switch over to. Oh, Jim? Yeah. Did you just saying hi? Okay. And I'll see us in closed session.